Hey, it's Kim Rule here. I thought we would take a few minutes to go over probably the most important document that we are going to come across as we go through your home buying and selling journey, and that is the contract to purchase real estate. This is provided by the Southwestern Illinois Board of Realtors. The contract is 12 pages long and 698 lines, so it is jam-packed with information, a lot of detail. I always highly recommend that you read it thoroughly, but at least take a look at it cursorily. We're going to go through some of the main bullet points, and if you have any questions, please just let me know. All right, let's get started. All right, so the very first part of our contract is going to basically be, what are we buying and selling here? It's going to have the property address. It's going to have the legal description, parcel number, lot size. So make sure we're on the same page as to what is actually being purchased. Okay, so section number 2 is talking about dual agency. In the event that I am representing the buyer and the seller in the same transaction, both parties have to acknowledge that they've agreed to it, and that we've both initialed it. Okay. Number 3, this is pretty important here. 3 is the offer and acceptance. This lets you know it's a binding contract, right? Like that's what a contract is. So it's serious business. Make sure that you're only initialing and signing a contract that you are 100% confident in doing so. Okay. Section 5. The buyer will be putting in, or letting me know, I will be actually putting it in, what their offer price is, as well as the earnest money that will be going to the title company after we have an accepted contract. Section 6, the home warranty. If the buyer fills this out that they're requesting a home warranty, some of these boxes will be checked from what warranty company and what is the cost of the warranty. Okay, so the next section is inclusions and exclusions. This is like microscopic print here. Basically, it's saying that items that are included and attached to the property stay. Okay, so you can go through this list in detail. I highly recommend, but I'll touch base on a couple big things. Curtain rod stay, blinds stay, security systems that are attached and built in stay, TV mounts that are on the wall stays. So it's a big list. Make sure that you've reviewed that, okay? And then if there's anything that's being excluded from the contract, we'll have that in there. Sometimes this would include washer and dryer, hot tub, pool table, anything specific, maybe a fountain that a seller has that is not included in the real estate. We will have that separated at that point, okay? All right, number 8. So I've got some big stars here, right? That means it's important. We're talking about the closing and possession here. There will be a date filled in, so you'll have a date. And a couple things in this section to know is that when the seller delivers the property to the buyer, that this happens after closing, and the seller is required to leave the home in broom clean condition, free of all litter, trash, debris, and make sure that the personal property is removed. Okay, so that's an important part here, and we'll go over it again down the road, as well as the buyer has an opportunity to do a walkthrough prior to closing. Okay. All right, section number 9, the financing contingency. This is a big deal. Should actually have like 5 stars. One of our biggest hurdles to get through when a buyer is getting a loan. Okay, I've highlighted a few of the most important things that we're going to chat about. This is going to have the buyer's specifics about what kind of loan they're getting. And it's very important to recognize that when a buyer starts the journey of buying a house, they're going to start with a pre-approval. It means that the lender has done some basic checking, credit score, debt to income ratio, job, things like that. And it's usually not until after they're in the process of buying a home that lender is going to require a lot more documentation from the buyer. This can be things like tax returns, W-2s, bank statements, income verification, just all kinds of stuff. And it is the buyer's responsibility to make sure that they are getting that information to their lender ASAP. This is not the time to be procrastinating. If they need something, we need to get it to the lender right away. Okay, so important stuff in this financing contingency. And until we have final loan approval, this is still a hurdle that we have got to get through, okay? Down here, you're going to see that we've got some of the more common types of financing that buyers get: conventional, FHA, rural development, VA, and grants. We're just going to skim through this here. FHA is one of our more common. VA, obviously with Scott Air Force Base, we have a lot of VA buyers. And I marked out the terms that we don't usually have, so we're going to focus on that. And then finally, cash transaction. If a buyer is not getting a loan, they would be considered a cash buyer. They've got the funds to purchase the home without getting a loan. Okay, so that would be the case if this was a cash buyer. All right, section 10, the appraisal. This is also a very starred and very highlighted area. A lot is happening in this little paragraph. Basically, in a nutshell, if the buyer is getting financing, the lender is going to be doing an appraisal, okay? And they do that for the investor's benefit. They want to make sure that the property that they are loaning money on is a wise choice, it's a wise investment, and they're going to make sure that the appraiser, who is selected from like a round robin management company, it's third party. We don't have the opportunity to pick an appraiser, that it's all done by that management company. And effectively, the goal is that the appraiser appraises the property, that their opinion of value is at or above the agreed sales price. If it is not, if it is lower than the sales price, then a lot of this verbiage is going to kick in, meaning that the buyer will have an opportunity to renegotiate with the seller. And if that doesn't work out, if the seller says, no, not changing the price, there are opportunities in this language here that the parties can terminate if it does not appraise. Okay, so a big part of that financing contingency is also the appraisal contingency. And just a keynote, even if it's a cash buyer, they also have an opportunity to have an appraisal done. That's their choice, okay? And then this contingency will kick in. So really important to know. All right, let's keep on going. All right, we are at section 11. This again should have like 5, 6, 10 stars. A lot is happening over the next few pages in this inspection contingency. So just first, right out of the gate, this contract states that the house is being sold in this as-is condition. All right, so read that, okay? However, the buyer has a right to have their own private inspections done, all right? And those inspections are not intended to be nitpicking at the property. They shouldn't be cosmetic, minor repairs. Sure, a home inspection is going to call those things out, but the buyer inspection protection is intended to be for significant problems in structural, roof, HVAC, things that are just a true problem, okay? Not if there's small minor cosmetic items that should have been noted during a showing, okay? So this is kind of highlight some of that there. This is several pages long, the inspections. We have time frames that we're working within. So very important that we're paying attention to time frames, that those inspections get done right away, and that we are working through whatever may have come up on those inspections. Environmental defects, radon, mold, things like that. Structural defects, we have issues with the foundation, anything that is going to cause us to worry about structural. And then this is going to talk about how do we fix things, like how do we get a buyer and seller together if there are things that come up on the inspection, what are our options to get through that process? So this is kind of going to walk through time frames and how that works, which obviously I will be going over in very, very thorough detail at that time. And then we're still going on, right? Still more inspections. And we're going to end this part with the wood infestation termite report, which is termites, wood boring insects, if the seller is aware of those or if any previous damage was determined in those inspections. So a lot happening in that inspection category. This kind of continues a little bit with the inspection. This is the governmental inspections and occupancy. If the property is located in an area that requires a city inspection occupancy, then this section is going to kick in. And quite honestly, most of our areas in Southern Illinois are either within the immediate city limit occupancy or are going to fall within the county. So I will let you know if we're dealing with a property that is going to require this and how we get through it. Okay? All right, let's keep on going. All right, section number 14, access to the property. Basically, this is just saying that the seller is aware that we've got some things happening. We're going to have inspectors come through, appraiser come through, things like that, and that they're going to work with us on getting those appointments scheduled. Okay. Section 15 is a pretty good little breakdown of what closing costs and adjustments are going to be processed and who pays what. Again, I will be going through this specifically with you, but as an overview, we've got typical closing costs that a buyer pays, typical closing costs that a seller pays, and then some of those costs are shared between buyer and seller. So kind of go through that. If you have any questions on the closing costs, let me know. All right, so section number 16, taxes and assessment. Let's talk real quick about the way that Illinois handles our taxes. You may or may not be aware or recall that our taxes are actually in arrears by a year. Okay, so we are kind of behind on the way that our taxes are done. So what you need to really know is that the seller is obligated to give a credit for all taxes owed on the property at the time of closing. Okay, and depending on where we're at in the year or into the second year, the title company will be calculating that amount. Couple things is that, first of all, the title company is going to be going off of the most recent information. Okay, so whatever the most recent tax bill is. Buyers should not assume that the buyer's future tax bill might not be higher, okay, or less. So it's not going to stay the same. It's not stagnant. And in the event that there is a difference of over $500, either that the seller credited too much or not enough on that closing date, this is kind of how that would work if one of the parties did not get enough of a credit or got too much of a credit. Okay, so it kind of walks through that process there. All right, so 17, we're going to start talking about some title work and the deed preparation. So the title company is going to be hiring an attorney that prepares the legal deed that they will draw up, and both parties will sign at the closing table, and then the title company will record the new deed, okay? Also that the property has clear title at closing. This is really important. So that way the buyer is buying a property that does not have anything in the past that's encumbering it in terms of easements, liens, anything that, we need to get cleared up before we get to the closing table. Also, if there's an HOA, if there's a subdivision with restrictions, buyer is absolutely recommended to review those covenants and restrictions, make sure that there's nothing in there that would cause you not to move forward with the purchase of a house. Number 19, survey. Another one of the contingencies, buyer may obtain a survey at buyer's cost. If the buyer does not want to survey, no big deal. We have a waiver that they will sign if they don't want to pay for the survey. Surveys can vary in cost depending on the size of the land and the difficulties in getting it surveyed. So buyer just gotta let us know if they're gonna have that survey done or not. All right, section 20, homeowners insurance. This is one of our contingencies, making sure that the buyer has the ability to get insurance on the new home. Okay, so again, there's a time frame in here. They've only got so many days to get on that. And one of the first steps that they should be doing to make sure that the property can be insured. All right. Flood insurance, this only applies if the property is in a flood zone, and that's not normally the case. All right, we're going to just have some contract language here. I'm not going to go through all of this, but please feel free to read through Risk of loss just says if something happens to the property while we're under contract, still the seller's responsibility to get that taken care of, and let us know if it's the buyer that something happened and how that's getting corrected. Again, a lot of contract language in here, remedies upon default. This is going to talk about the earnest money, how that works. We'll keep going. Mediation, arbitration, litigation, if there's disputes, how that is handled. Effective date, timing, lots of timing dates and times in this document. Again, a lot of acknowledgement, binding, the agreement, a lot of stuff happening here. I'm going to keep on going through. Electronic copies are acceptable. We're doing a lot with electronic signatures. This is highlighted. Listen, we just don't discriminate, right? So know that. It's important. We do not discriminate. All right. And if this contract is terminating, what's the process? How does that work? Again, I'll be walking you through if we're in an unfortunate situation where our contract is being terminated. A lot of addendums and disclosures. These will be checked as applicable to the property that is being sold. And special agreements, if there's anything in there that we got to put that's just special, it's not in the 698 lines already prepared by the attorney. It's got a little spot where we can deal with some other issues that we may need to put in a contract. Agent interest, if I'm related to you, I got to let everybody know, okay? And a lot of initials. You've probably noticed in each page as I've gone through, there are boxes for initials for buyer, seller, and buyer on every single page. Okay. Last page, this is just, all the information. Who's selling the house? Who's buying the house? Who's the listing agent? Who's the buyer's agent? Who's the broker? License numbers, all that good stuff. This is all going to get filled in. What's really important on this page is that there is going to be a deadline for the seller to review and respond to the contract. Okay, so that's really important on this piece, as well as obviously signatures. Is the seller accepting the contract, rejecting it, counteroffering? How that seller is going to respond is here, and then following up with the title and company information at the very bottom. So, that's a lot. 698 lines. And again, I recommend that you read this over. Let me know if you have any questions. At some point, we're going to be dealing with this with real numbers, okay? Real numbers, real addresses, real stuff. And it's going to be a good opportunity for you to look this over in advance. So super excited. Let me know if you have any questions. See ya.